Vladimir Putin is not known to give up easily, and he's always going from one, approach to another until he gets somehow what he's seeking.
In the port city of Odessa, over 70 Ukrainian cargo ships are being held in a Russian blockade, restricting food exports that would be sent across the world. President Zelensky has called on the West to help break the blockade up. Let's speak to Fabrice Pothier now, former NATO Director of Policy Planning and founding director of Carnegie Europe. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked many times on the show about just the reliance of large parts of the world on particularly food supplies that come out of Ukraine, grain in particular. What do you think will be the consequences of this blockade?
Well, first, we are talking here about something like 25 million tons of grain that is being held hostage by Russian forces. I think in terms of consequences, this is basically mostly the developing world, which is going to suffer from this situation. And I think it's important for both the Ukrainian leadership and the West to convey that to countries in Africa, Latin America, Asia, that Russia, which usually likes to have an anti-Western narrative in those regions, is actually Russia is working against their interests and against the health and well-being of the population. So I think that's an important moment to convey an important message.
And what can the West, President Zelensky understandably wants more to be done by countries outside. What in theory could countries like Britain and others be doing?
Well, we're already doing, I think, quite a fair bit by providing the sort of weapon systems that the Ukrainian forces need to push back against Russian forces on land and also on sea. Some commentators are calling for NATO to be more actively involved in the Black Sea, including mine-sweeping operation. I think this will cross a threshold that NATO is not yet ready to do in terms of direct involvement, or almost as close as it gets to a direct involvement in the combat operation. But I would think that providing all the defensive and offensive equipment to actually diminish this Russian maritime blockade, which actually the Ukrainians have done pretty well until now in terms of targeting some flagship Navy ship, would be very useful.
And there was a lot of speculation before the May the 9th victory day in Russia this week that maybe Putin would use that as a pivot point to declare some sort of victory and find a way out of the impasse. Clearly that's not happened. Is there any prospect of that happening now? Or are we just in this for the long haul and actually a pretty miserable long grind for the people of Ukraine trying to resist this Russian invasion?
You're right. I mean, Vladimir Putin is not known to give up easily, and he's always going from one, approach to another until he gets somehow what he's seeking. So I think this is why the U.S. intelligence community seems to point to a long attrition war with Russia really digging in. But on the other hand, what you are seeing is the Ukrainian forces are really kind of on the counter-offensive push, including in Kharkiv, and are quite successful at it. Obviously, we cannot call victory yet, but the point here is that the Russian forces are really under pressure. If the Ukrainian manage to retake part of Kharkiv or entire part, they will start to be able to actually go after the supply lines of the Russian forces in the eastern Donbass, and that's going to hurt. So actually, I think the jury is out as to who will be prevailing and who will have the advantage. And with the kind of equipment we're providing to the Ukrainians, they are starting to really make a difference on the ground.
And so where does this go next? Is there anything that could be done to sort of, I don't know, put the rocket boosters, was probably the wrong metaphor, underneath the Ukraine's response? Or is this just something which is inevitably just going to take a very long time?
I think the last kind of real nuclear option we have right now is the kind of full embargo on gas and oil exports from Russia. Because in the end, we are still sending the equivalent of $1 billion of cash every day to Vladimir Putin's war machine. And the moment we will really stop those exports, we will actually bring his economic capacity to a really difficult point. We are talking about an oil embargo in 6 months' time. In my view, this is kind of giving him again a kind of ample room to keep on trying to grab as much territory as possible. So I think this is really more on the economic front, because frankly, on the military one, we are providing serious weapon system right now. So I think this is we are going as far as we can.